It's the Poojie Podcast, proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club. What is going on, Pooj crew? Thanks for checking into episode 77 of the Poojie Podcast. I'm extremely excited for this one because it's been a hot minute since we talked any baseball on this podcast, but I have two of my trusty steeds back to talk MLB baseball, and unfortunately they come with a little bit of sadness as my Los Angeles Dodgers knocked out their Tampa Bay Rays in the 2020 World Series, which some people want to put an asterisk by. We might get into that. But we'll see what happens. Maybe an asterisk for some coaching decisions, too, on the mound in Game 7. I don't know, but we'll get into that. We got Max laughing here, and we'll definitely get into that. But definitely thank you to Cimarron Golf Club for helping support the podcast. It's getting into the summer months, the dog days of summer. Baseball is back. Golf is back. All the good things in life are now back, and potentially maybe getting fans back in the stands. I think if any sport really looked weirder because of no fans, I feel like it was baseball, simply because it's weird seeing a foul ball go into empty stands. And that happens often at Marlins Park down in Miami. But in just a normal stadium, it felt weird. Drew, can you jump in real quick?
Sure, definitely. We had the cutouts. We had the fake fans and MLB The Show. Weird scene. We saw a live teddy bear being smushed with a foul ball last year.
Jeez.
But it's crazy 2020 season. But Max, though, is part of the Steeds, part of the stable of the Rays bullpen fan base. So got this 2-on-1 against Justin for this round.
Yeah, this is 2-on-1. This is not too fair. Hopefully one of you guys is Blake Snell and you can finish the job off. Max, I want to go to you real quick, and I'm sorry I had to take that shot there. Very active on social media during the World Series last year. And in fact, I think I even tweeted out something about kind of finding rejuvenation in life simply by just following your tweets, following your emotional roller coaster. It just felt like waking up during the playoffs to see what you would tweet about the Rays really kind of got me more excited for baseball.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that. And it definitely was a roller coaster. I'm looking at the highlights behind you and kind of getting some soft PTSD from it. It was definitely a magical ride, I think. And one of those ones where, you look back at the Brett Phillips walk-off, even the Mike Brousseau hit off Aroldis to send us to the World Series. It just was one of those things where unexpected. I think before the shortened season started, I kind of joked on Twitter about how the Rays are kind of a 60-game team regardless. Very similar to a minor league team. So it's nice to see them get to the World Series. It hurt definitely to see them lose, but another 10 years we'll be back and maybe we'll win 3 games this time. But
I mean, the excitement though has to be there, if not necessarily for the Rays. I'm not too sure what direction you're trending right now. I always feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it always feels like the Rays are like trending downward, but then they finish with 92 wins and then they're trending upward, but then they're still always trending downward. But then somehow the players they have help them trend upward. I don't even know how to put it into words.
No, that's pretty good. I think you did it about right. I mean, I've been hurt, being a Jaguars fan, being a Rays fan, seeing UCF go 0-12. I've been hurt before, and definitely by the Rays, who, have no shortcomings of hurting me. So it's one of those things where, when they're good, they're good. And when they're bad, they're really bad. You expect the worst. And going into the season, you could have told me they would go 0-60, and I would have agreed with you. But you could also tell me they make a World Series run. I'd say, yeah, that sounds about right too. So it was just fitting. But I'm excited for the season. I think, we won't be as magical as we were last year, which is fine. It's one thing to go to the World Series in a shortened season. It's another thing to go in a 162-game season. But either way, I'm sure either middle of the season or end of the season, I'll still be just as excited and just as pissed off.
So you talk about World Series on a shortened season. Dodgers obviously winning their first World Series since 1988, I believe it was. First time. I can't remember what happened first. If the Lightning won, I think the Dodgers won and then the Lightning, I want to say. But it was really the first time I ever watched one of my professional sports teams win a championship, which was really cool for me to be able to experience. And the bummer of it all was both of them, the Lightning and the Dodgers, did it in a pandemic year, Lightning in a bubble. No fans for the Dodgers being played out. And I think it was like Arlington, I want to say. So how much of that World Series does it hold more weight because of the circumstances, or does it hold less weight because of the circumstances?
I think it's unfair to say it holds less weight, just, from a standpoint of they still did play a full postseason. They still played 60 games. And I think with how good the Dodgers were, it made sense. I think they would have been there in a 162 game season. So it's one of those things where, it felt a little different when they were partying on the field, and, at least there were fans there for that. The atmosphere did feel a little bit off, and in a way, I'm not happy the Rays lost the World Series, but it would have felt anticlimactic for the Rays to win it like that. But I think overall, a World Series is a World Series win, and the way the Dodgers did it was impressive, pretty much playing, most of the postseason games that they could. So I think overall, you look at it from a standpoint of, any World Series is impressive. Same with the Stanley Cup. Theirs was a little bit different in the bubble, but I certainly don't put an asterisk by it in my book.
And Drew, I got to ask you, because we just talked about fans being there to celebrate the World Series. In your opinion, the four major sports between baseball, football, basketball, and hockey, sorry, Verben, sorry to soccer. We're not going to talk about you this episode. Be sure to tune into episode 78 for more soccer talk. But in your opinion, those four major sports, what would you rate the experience level at as far as fans being involved in the atmosphere? Drew, in your opinion, when you go to a sporting event or you're watching on TV, where are you ranking those sports from 1 to 4 as the atmosphere improving most because of fans?
I say football first. It's a high energy kind of sport, and being around it, watching the Jaguars score their 10 points a game, with the what do you call it, the Bro Hymn song they play. So that was fun to listen to. I'd probably say baseball second, because go to a Braves game, hearing that, big drum going on for the chop, it's something special to be a part of. Basketball, it's whatever. I'm not about basketball. So football first, baseball, then probably 10 feet of nothing, and then basketball.
And is hockey in that 10 feet, or is hockey after basketball?
So I grew up a Thrashers fan, so no.
No?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, good to know. So we got baseball up there. I genuinely think when you look at it, when you go to a football game, you're so focused on the game, you're so focused on the activity, you're focused on the plays. When you go to a baseball game, I think the beauty of it is the social aspect of it and the environment of it. And I think that's why when we talk about atmosphere, I think that's why the pandemic maybe affected the viewing pleasure of it the most is you don't get any of those crowd shots, the cutaways from the batter, the kid eating the hot dog, or the guy catching the foul ball with the baby and the beer and all that crazy stuff. So I think it was genuinely missed just from a viewing experience. So I'm really excited to get back to it. Now I want to get into some of the 2021 topics, and obviously you have the Dodgers coming back. They have Mookie Betts, and something I did not realize is David Price did not even play last year for them, and he is still on the Dodgers roster for 2021. Does that make the Dodgers clear-cut favorites in this season, or who's going to be the challenger?
I think that Price kind of tapered off past 2018 World Series, so he's a 3 or 4 starter. Nothing to to hold your franchise on. He'll be serviceable, but nothing amazing.
So he doesn't necessarily enhance your view of the Dodgers. The Dodgers without him would be good enough anyway to win the World Series, I guess.
He's a glue guy, basically.
Okay, gotcha. And Max, what about you? Number one challenger to the Dodgers in the MLB this year?
I got to go Yankees. I think last year, just the injuries, and they do typically have a lot of injuries, but with the long season, it, tends to play out more in their favor. I think that's the trendy pick. So probably not, any bold predictions there, but I think the Yankees, just from their, offensive powerhouse, they scored a ton of runs last year. We're only 1 game away from beating the Rays to go to the World Series. I got to say it's them, but agreed on Drew's point with David Price. I think he's an asset. But to your point, I also think, the Dodgers were good enough without him last year, and he's a 3-4 starter, which definitely doesn't hurt, especially in this day and age. But yeah, I don't think he's a game changer anymore.
All right, I got to respect it, because I was kind of wondering what was going on with him not being a part of the team. And I just assumed it was because of old age and he was just scared of the virus because he's old. So maybe he wasn't a part of the team. But I'm looking at this article now, the 7 tiers of 2021 baseball. It's actually a pretty cool article on MLB.com. I would definitely go check it out if you're a casual baseball fan like myself. It actually provides some pretty good insight ahead of the opening day 2021 tomorrow for baseball. And talks about the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Padres being the top dogs and mentions the Padres as being the winner of the offseason. And of course, being a Jaguars fan, Max, you and I both know what it's like to win the offseason. We've done that a handful of times, but I'm looking at some of these names that they added: Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove. Those are three fantastic pitchers that I'm aware of. You still got Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Will Myers, Jake Cronenworth, Lamat. How do you pronounce his name?
Dinelson Lamet.
Yeah, Dinelson. These are guys, and Drew Pomeranz. These are guys that I know. That sounds like a dangerous team, and not only dangerous in the MLB, they're in the NL West with the Dodgers. So that's got to be the most competitive division going into the 2021 season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Padres definitely spent big. They've done it before, and it didn't really pay off. But I think last year they kind of got over that hump to be able to get there. And of course, adding Snell and Darvish definitely doesn't hurt, even though I'm fully confident that Snell will go a total of 5 innings per game. But we'll see how the Padres handle that. I know, Cash didn't as well as anybody else. But yeah, I think that's a competitive division. I think the AL East too. You've got the Red Sox, who I think will be coming back with Cora. You've got the Yankees, of course, and the Blue Jays too are very much improved. You can forget about the Orioles, but Tampa lost a couple of positions from their starting pitching, but ultimately, that's a solid top to bottom as well. So 2 very interesting divisions, in my opinion.
And funny note about the Orioles, I think we all heard about it. What, they got 0% chance to make the playoffs? Is that what I saw?
Yeah.
How disrespectful is that? You're a player on the team. You show up. Why even do it? We have 0 chance. It's like being in the group of 5. Why even show up? There's 0% chance to make the playoff. You might not as well play. Don't even worry about it. Don't show up. You're not getting in anyway. You're not getting in. That's what's going to happen to the Orioles. Sorry, I just had to pop off there for a second. May have even broken my pen. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll check on that later. So the Orioles, bottom feeders in the AL East and in the MLB, just to begin with. If it came down to the Padres and Yankees, Drew, who are you taking in that matchup there?
Well, the Yankees playing a phone booth, so if you're playing San Diego, it's much even playing ground. But the lineup of Tatis Jr., Machado, Hosmer, Myers, Cronenworth, name anybody you want, it's ridiculous. Yankees, if they're healthy, they're good, but Stan's always hurt, Judge is always hurt. Gary Sanchez is a terrible hitter, terrible catcher. For some reason, he's still on the team. I don't know why. So Padres over the Yankees by a good margin if I had the choice.
I like it. And then we get into tier 2 of this article, which kind of mentions the Blue Jays. Max, as you just mentioned, coming out of the AL East. Drew, I know your second team, the Braves, in that tier as well, with the Mets, who did I sleep through 5 years of baseball? Are the Mets good again? What happened?
Uncle Stevie bought his players. Uncle Stevie bought, hopefully, Lindor, James McCann, Trevor May. You're having Nimmo Conforto, Dominic Smith, Pete Alonso. It's ridiculous. They're a legit second place team, I think.
Jesus. Yeah, I'm looking at this dude, this guy does not care about the soft cap at all. He's I'm just gonna. Well, I guess honestly, you're in New York, so you might as well do what your brethren's doing in the state, and might as well just build your team through payroll. Unlike other program or other teams out there that are able to do it elsewhere in their farm systems. So you got the Mets, and then you have the Twins and the White Sox. Again, the White Sox. Someone fill me in on the White Sox. Max, are the White Sox good? What's happening?
I'm in the same boat as you, honestly. The White Sox kind of came out of nowhere, and yeah, same boat of weren't they just garbage a couple of years ago? But hey, good for them, and more good teams are good for baseball. But yeah, same boat. I'm not really quite sure what they did this.
This is big. They brought back Tony La Russa. So, here we go. Tony La Russa is the manager, and they signed Liam Hendricks, one of the best relievers in baseball. So that'll be exciting for them as long as they can win some games. I do know they have a young core. So I sound ignorant saying, are the White Sox good? I do know that they do have a good young core, but to put them in tier 2 of the overall standings seems a little bit lofty for a team that kind of has a young base. I don't know, Drew, if you have more knowledge on that.
Yeah, they're actually very prospect laden, but Tim Anderson, homegrown guy. They have Yohan Moncada came from the Chris Sale trade. Michael Kopech, Justin, I call him Exxon. Do you know why?
Michael Kopech?
Yes, Kobe, he pumps straight gas. The dude's a legit starter. Him, Lucas Giolito, Liam Hendricks closing it out, shutting the door. This is a legit Yale Central team. And fun fact, Justin, I got a job a couple of days ago with the Winston-Salem Dash, the White Sox high affiliate. So,
Oh wow! So are you going to be going? You're going to be going up to Winston-Salem.
Yep, next Wednesday.
Nice, man.
Nice.
Congrats. You might smell some of Scott Kornberg up there.
Of course, man.
Didn't he used to work there?
Yeah, I got to follow footsteps.
Oh my gosh, that's great. And speaking of jobs within baseball, recently saw on your Facebook you were working in spring training down in South Florida.
Yes, I've been working at that same ballpark since I was 14 years old. You know, when I got a chance to play some music for the ballpark this whole month, spring training, watching the Cardinals and Marlins, who they're encouraging. You know, they have some bright spots in their team. Starting Marte is a good veteran. Aguilar's decent. How about a Sixto Sanchez circa 2019 shrimp? So they have a young team that could be a third place team possibly.
Love me some Sixto. He's gonna be a guy that when people are talking about the playoff threatening Marlins, they're gonna be looking back to Sixto Sanchez as the reason why. And hey, we talked about the 60-game season. The Marlins made the playoffs and won a series. So they won one, right? They didn't win two.
Yeah, no, they won one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they lost to Atlanta 3-0. So they won one, which, hey, get to the dance. You might as well win one. Got to take a girl home if you get there. And then we got the Twins on here as well. The Twins, I feel like, are that team that's always there, but they're never over there. They're never down there and they're never up there, but they're just always like there. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a weird thing for me to put into words, but I just feel like the Twins are constantly in the AL Central as a team that is not a pushover. And if they get hot at the right time, they'll be the team that people are circling going into the playoffs as this is the scary team. Look out for the Twins.
They're just kind of old. I mean, I feel like everybody on the Twins has just been in baseball forever. I mean, Josh Donaldson, stud, but I mean, the guy's got to be like Pujols' age at this point, 48, whatever. Is Nelson Cruz still on there? I wasn't sure if he's old too. I mean, Byron Buxton is still, when he's healthy, a stud, but I mean, Joe Mauer played there forever. I think they're just kind of the retirement home for the used to be big name guys, and they'll make a deep playoff run, but yeah, I don't see them going any further than maybe a second round.
And you got Andrelton Simmons, who I know he's an older guy coming from the Angels. They have Jorge Polanco, I think coming from the Pirates, I want to say. He's an older guy, and Kenta Maeda, formerly with the Dodgers. He's in the younger part of his career, but he's not a rookie by any means. So yeah, I mean, if there was a word for it, old and consistent is what I would say. Old and consistent. It's like a golfer. It's like a Steve Stricker or a Matt Kuchar. They're going to go out there. They're on the tail end of their career, and they might crack the top 10. But to win it all, you got to have some young guns on your team. So that rounds out the top tier number 2, excuse me. And then we got tier 3, which is interesting. These are teams in this tier that have recently been threatening. In fact, if you showed me both of these lists, I would say this is more tier 2 than the other tier. But we have the A's, the Astros, the Cardinals, Brewers, and Rays. So out of those 5 teams there, A's, Astros, Cardinals, Brewers, and Rays, Drew, who would you go with, or even supply your top 5 with those 5 teams?
So the baseball person hit me for this, but the Astros are my pick because cheaters, yes, but they're also a legit team last year. They made to the ALCS against the Rays. Sorry about it. But, you still have Correa, Bregman, Brantley. You have do you still have Cole on the team? I believe no, it's in the Yankees. I'm stupid. No, they have the Colors and Urquidy, but they're a legit team. They didn't really lose much guys at the offseason. Dusty Baker's a legit manager. They're definitely a AL West champion again this year.
I like it. And so you go Astros, and then between the rest, the A's, the Cardinals, Brewers, and Rays, who do you got second?
I'd probably say the Rays. I think the more complete team. The Astros rotations are kind of like a muddy mix. You have Flaherty, Carlos Martinez, who's a scrub, Wainwright, who's like 40 years old, John Gant, who pitches like a bird. It's a tough rotation for them, but they have a rookie named Dylan Carlson, legit guy, good guy to get in your fantasy baseball leagues. The Brewers are straight trash, by the way. They have no pitching, no hitting. They're tier five on that list. The Cardinals, well, I mentioned that already. A's, they'll probably be a wild card team. I think they still have Chapman, Olsen, Oriano, Jesus Luzardo. They're still a good-ish team.
Okay. And what I'm realizing is that MLB is quickly turning into NBA for me, where these players are signing all over the place, and I just have no idea. Like Nolan Arenado is now on the Cardinals, and I say that because I know probably 90% of the people listening know who that is and did not know he got traded. So no
trade.
What's up?
It was a terrible trade.
It was awful.
What happened?
It was 3 prospects and $50 million for Arenado, basically.
Jeez. Okay. Well, hey, if that's what's going to do it for him, let's see. And last note on this tier, yeah, the Astros cheated. You know, it's stupid. I hate it. I think that's bullshit. So they can go to tier 7 for all I care. But A's, I don't know if it's because of Brad Pitt's luscious hair in the movie Moneyball, but I have a soft spot for them. I don't know anybody on the team except for Marcus Seaman, I think his name, Marcus Simon.
Semien.
Semien. Yeah, that's the only one I know from fantasy baseball. And outside of that, I think Mark Kana is another one because I drafted him this year if he's still on the team. But anyway, I got a soft spot for them. So if I'm pulling for anyone in that tier, it's the Oakland A's because they need to get over the Moneyball hump. They are the team of destiny, and America deserves the Oakland A's. No longer do we care about the Golden State Warriors in the Bay Area. The Oakland A's take over the show this year by winning the World Series. Mark my words.
That's pretty bold. Yeah, that's bold.
I'm just saying. That's the soft spot in me coming out. I'm gonna have to maybe recorrect that tomorrow and maybe tweet, okay, it got away from me. I should have said AL West or Central, whatever they're in. But
it's bold city bold.
Bold, yeah, we're in the bold city, so you might as well be bold. And Max, I got to hear your thoughts on the Astros or on the Rays, excuse me, not the Astros, because I feel like I know your thoughts on them. If you want to provide them, you're more than welcome to. But on the Rays, give me your thoughts on this 2021 season. Break it down for me.
Yeah, I think they'll be solid. I don't expect a playoff run, to be honest. I think the division's too good. I think getting rid of Morton and trading away Snell for peanuts, it hurts for sure because last year the strength was definitely pitching, considering our offense was non-existent at some points. I think it'll be good to get some of the new guys up. I'm excited to see Wander Franco. Willie Adames has about played his time out with me after striking out a bazillion times in the World Series. And I'm excited to see Brent Honeywell too, after coming off his surgery. He was really exciting when he was coming up a couple of years ago and had to go down. But yeah, I'm not expecting too much. I think, like you said earlier, they'll be around at the end. I don't think they'll make any big trades in the middle of the season, either getting rid of or getting somebody in. But I think they'll be around, maybe make a wild card run. But I'm not expecting anything close to a World Series run.
Okay, and I have to ask you, so we talked about the departure of Blake Snell. Is the pitching still the strong suit or the identity of this team?
I think so. You still have Glass now. You got Michael Wacha in there now. Yarbs is still there. They lost Anderson for about a month or two, or maybe even until the All-Star break. I can't recall what it actually was, but that hurts a lot from the back end. The Rays have never really typically used a standard closer. They've kind of rotated them throughout, and Anderson was kind of rolling into that. But, I still think that's going to be it. A Kevin Cash team has never really been an offensive-minded, which I think is to his benefit, but also his downfall, like we saw. They can go out and score 50 runs and hold the other team to 1, but they're also liable to give up, 10 runs and score 1. So I think they're very hot and cold, and they've always have been. But, I think pitching will still be a strong point for them despite the departures.
Yeah, the Rays, they got 3 rentals, and then Archer, Wacha, and Rachel, who's like 45 years old for some reason. But, look ahead to next year. You have Shane McClanahan. Whoops, my phone just fell. Shane McClanahan, Luis Patino, Brent Honeywell, Josh Fleming. This team is loaded from the minors. So say Hill, Wacha, and Archer all crap out. Insert those 3 guys from the farm. Could be an interesting rotation. Also, Pistol Pete Fairbanks. Watch this guy pitch. He is 100 miles an hour fastball guy. insane relievers. So Justin, if you're looking for a reliever for a fantasy team, Pistol Pete Fairbanks to the freaking moon.
Pete Fairbanks. That name sounds familiar. I feel like he was maybe on my team at one point. I'm not 100% certain. Maybe is there another Fairbanks in the MLB? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Maybe I had him. Who knows? But you mentioned that about the farm system. I just looked up the farm system rankings for this year. It just got released 10 days ago. And the number one team, the Tampa Bay Rays. So number one team, Tampa Bay Rays. From last year, they were the preseason number one. Midseason, they were number one. Wander Franco, Luis Patino, Randy Arozarena, Vidal Brujan, Brendan McKay, Shane McClanahan, Xavier Edwards, and Shane Baz. So they had 8 guys in the top 100, which is extremely impressive. And then you go Detroit Tigers, Seattle Mariners, and there's our beloved Miami Marlins, who we'll get to in a little bit, but I do want to touch on this. You guys are fans of the Rays. I'm fans of the Dodgers. Our teams cannot be more different when it comes to building the team. Like, you guys are constantly giving players away and then building through the farm system. We have farm system guys like Corey Seager and Cody Bellinger, and then we bring guys in like Mookie Betts. We can do both. In your opinion, this might be a dumb question. I was going to say, what's the more effective way? Obviously, it's going to be by talent. But as a fan, what is more fun in your opinion? Is it being a fan of a team that buys the talent and you maybe don't necessarily have that emotional tie to these players? Or is it being a fan of the team that's scrappy in building, and then when you get there, it feels better?
I think go ahead, Drew. Sorry,
Max. I think it's really his homegrown value. You know, look at the '90s Braves. Besides Greg Maddux, you had Glavine, Smoltz, Dave Justice. Like, they had this homegrown talent that lasted like 10 years for his crazy division title run. Now the Rays trying to do the same thing. With the pitching and what's his name? Wander Franco. So having that homegrown talent kind of brought up and not bought is kind of just a wholesome feeling. Buying your players is cool, but it's not the same kind of feeling, I think, as a homegrown team they kind of brought up from the grassroots level. Yeah,
like, honestly, sometimes I feel kind of privileged, and not even because I'm white, just because, we get Mookie Betts in a trade, and it's like, we just got the best player, but like, okay, we also have like one of the biggest payrolls, so it's not even fun. So it's like, but we just won a World Series, so now it's fun again. But I'm on the fence as to like, okay, why is it so easy for teams to do this? There's just such a big gap between the way things can happen in MLB versus any other sport, in my opinion. Like, the fact that the Dodgers are able to do this, and then you got teams like the Rays that have to do this, the disparity is just completely, and then the two teams meet in the World Series, of course. So it's just, it shows that both ways are effective, I guess, to answer my previous question to myself. And by the way, the Baltimore Orioles, with 0% chance to make the playoffs, they are the 5th best farm system in Major League Baseball right now, according to this article. All right, but let's get into tier 4 real quick. These are teams that are looking like they might be, maybe fighting for one of those wild card spots. Are they keeping an expanded playoff format for this year? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
I hope they do, because that was fun. But who knows? So we got the Angels, the Cubs, the Indians, and the Nationals. And outside of the Angels, what happened to the Cubs, Indians, and Nationals with this fall from grace? I thought, last I looked, I must have been Rumpelstiltskin over here sleeping forever, because I thought those 3 teams were still good. Are they just not good anymore?
I think they're just old. I think you kind of look at, and the Nats, I mean, the Cubs are definitely old. I mean, their core 3 are going to hit free agency next year. The band's falling apart. Joe Madden's done his one trick pony of winning a World Series, and now he's gone. But I think, the Nationals, same deal. I never really thought their manager was great when he was at the Rays, and he kind of struck lightning with the Nats back when they won their World Series, which I'm still pretty jealous of, so I won't mention that. And yeah, the Indians, another strange deal, but getting rid of Lindor's definitely going to hurt them. But yeah, from that tier, I mean, I think the Angels, they have to be good eventually, right? And just as a purist baseball fan, you have to feel for Mike Trout. I mean, they keep dumping money into that team with Ohtani, with everything that they do, and they just continuously suck. And I don't get it. I think, hopefully that they capture something, because Trout deserves it with how good he is. And, with Jared Walsh too, I think that's a personal shout out. I work with his nephew, Casey Walsh, but I think he's a really good up and coming starter for them. Just kind of, from a dual standpoint, I think he pitches as well, also plays first base. But yeah, that's definitely one of those tiers where 3 years ago, that would have probably been closer to tier 1 than tier 4.
Yeah, so the Angels, their headline ads were Alex Cobb and Jose Quintana, who are scrubs. They're TLC scrubs. They're not nothing special, So I think the Angels, they have a lot to prove with pitching, I think, because the Angels are due for a playoff, wild card berth, whatever. Nationals, they actually made some good ads. They got Josh Bell, the big first baseman from Pittsburgh this year. Kyle Schwarber in the outfield. They have Juan Soto, who is a amazing athlete, probably top 5 player in the league right now. So they could be a second place team possibly in NL East, if not the Phillies. And then who else you say? You said Angels. And who else? Angels.
It was Angels,
Angels.
Cubs, Indians, and Nationals.
Okay. It's probably the last year the Cubs have a chance of really contending, because you have Baez and Rizzo. The last year, I've heard that Rizzo might go to the Marlins next year. Who knows? But they're okay. They're not amazing. They're like store brand Cheerios. They're like, I'll eat it, but I'm not gonna enjoy it. And then lastly was the Indians. They lost so many arms. They lost Corey Kluber, Mike Clevenger, Trevor Bauer. The list goes on and on. We do have Zach Plesac, who's kind of a scumbag for some reasons, but either way, they're a 91 team, but I'll vote them as the perennial AL Central winner.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at the Nationals right now: Juan Soto, Trey Turner, Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Patrick Corbin, and Brad Hand. Okay, so those are all guys that I know, so they all must be pretty good. And Josh Bell and Kyle Schwarber are also on the team, which I know them as well. So for them to be tier 4, in my opinion, seems a little bit low, just simply based on the star talent. But I guess, and we see this every year in baseball, again with Mike Trout, comes down to the depth of the team, and maybe the Nationals just aren't there on the back end as much as they are on the front end. And did Albert Pujols, did he opt into this year, or is he playing this year?
Yeah.
Okay, he is. So I want to read this story real quick. I'm not sure if either of you guys have heard this, but this was the most amazing thing I've read about baseball regarding Albert Pujols. So it's Sampson. I think it's David Sampson is the one who taught. Yeah, David Sampson, who gave Albert Pujols the contract, I think, with the Angels. He quotes and says, Sampson says, "There is not one person in baseball, not one executive, who believes Albert Pujols is the age that he says he is. The amount of fraud that was going on in the Dominican back in the day, the changing of names and the changing of birthdays, it would blow your mind. This isn't the first time Pujols, who is listed at 41 years old, has had his age called into question, as Sampson notes. There's a history with players from the Dominican Republic not being the age they claim." They talk about other players, Miguel Tejada. And then this quote is what solidified it. Quote from Albert Pujols: "I actually hit it off with Octavio Dottle. I think I told you that. I was about 12 or 13, Pujols said, describing his first ever home run. And we go back, 28 years later, and here I am. Using Pujols' math, 13-year-old plus 28 years old would have made him 41 at the time of the interview, which was 3 years ago. So now, during the interview, he would have actually been 44. So he's actually been 3 years older than he is the whole time, and he got that 10-year contract 3 years later than he actually was, 3 years older than he actually was. So I just say that to say that's I don't think that says anything negative about Albert Pujols. I just think it's a pretty funny story to think Albert Pujols has been this great player in MLB baseball, and he's been 3 years older than we've thought he has been every single year, I guess. So interesting little note there about him. And then let's get into tier 5. These are teams to be claimed stuck in the middle. What are these teams? Who are these teams? And kind of some familiarity here. The Diamondbacks, Phillies, Reds, and Red Sox. And before we start anything with this, Drew, I have to ask you also on your Facebook. I promise I wasn't creeping and stalking. I saw that you had tweeted out a very cool picture of you at Fenway Park back when you were younger. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
First, I was about 2 feet shorter back then, and it was a Japanese Heritage Night at a Daisuke Matsusaka shirt. It was Japanese Heritage Night, so I said, "Hey, you're in this Japanese shirt. Why don't you go on the field and say play ball for us?" So did that. That was probably 2008. That was the season after the Red Sox beat the Rockies in the World Series. But it's surreal being in that giant, traditional family park on the field, watching the players come by. I saw Big Poppy walk across 10 feet away from me. So seeing that at an early age, kind of a cool one for a baseball fan. But I had probably 10 feet of hair back then. Wasn't short like it is now. But
I did see that. I saw that. So did you say play ball in Japanese?
Who knows? You weren't there, but it might have done it.
That would have been interesting because I saw the jersey you were wearing was in Japanese, so I was just kind of wanting to make sure that you went full on Japanese Heritage Night for the night and learned those 2 words for that event. So we got the Diamondbacks, Phillies, Reds, and Red Sox here, and why not? After that great story about you and the Red Sox, Max, what are these teams? Just that's a weird question, but just what is there about these teams, or what are these teams?
I think there's a lot of potential. I really, really like the Reds this season. Before we went on, I was kind of looking at different teams and kind of, expecting to look at different lower levels. And I think the Reds were decent last year, like surprisingly decent. I don't think they were very good, but they've got a decent farm system. I know Jonathan India is supposed to be coming out this year, which is big. I watched him play at Florida, and he was phenomenal there. So I like them a lot. Red Sox, you can never count them out, especially with the shady way they brought back Cora. They've still got decent players on their team despite giving away Mookie for peanuts. Phillies, same deal. They overpaid for Harper, but they can strike hot if they need to. So I think there's a lot of potential in this. And again, it's one of those kind of tiers where a couple of years ago, most of these teams would be seen as top tier, kind of, fighting it out for a playoff spot. So it's strange to see them so far down, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of those teams, kind of make it out to the playoffs. And, I don't think a lot of writers would be either, other than the Reds, which again, I kind of have a soft spot for them. I've seen a lot of their farm talent here in Daytona with the Tortugas. So they've got some good arms in the pipeline. They've definitely got some good fielders, and excited to see what they can do.
Okay. And so you bring up a good point there. We're now in tier 5. So we're looking at like the 20s to the 24 power rankings. And we're talking about teams that could potentially make the playoffs. And if you're looking at that in any other sport, you're looking at teams that are likely closer to being a top 10 pick than being a bottom 20 pick. And I guess my thought is, do you think first, baseball has the most parity in it than any other sport? And second, do you think the farm system adds to that parity because of the additional element of building your roster? It's not just an active 53-man roster or the active 15 for NBA. There's this element behind the scenes that while your main fans are focused on up here, you're doing all these little things down here that will benefit your team in the long run. I mean, is that fair to say?
I think overall parity, if you look at like playoff, kind of the different players, I think you could say NBA, just because they've always got some back tier, in those 7 or 8 spots to where you're kind of like, oh, I thought those guys were trash. And yeah, they're probably 15 games under 500, but in the NBA, everybody gets a sticker. But at the same time, one player can change an entire team, take them to the World Series or to the NBA championship. So I think overall, from a full World Series, we haven't seen really the same World Series back to back, in a couple of years. It hardly ever happens to have the same 2 teams. Mm-hmm. So I think, I'd agree with that there's definitely a lot more parity in just kind of the overall best teams. And that is a compliment to the farm system. I think that definitely makes it fun, and it makes it good from a marketing perspective too. From your time in minor league baseball, you saw that can really connect fans to a team that is nowhere close to where they are. I mean, I know there's people in Daytona that only like the Reds strictly because the Tortugas are here. Back when the Tortugas were the Cubs and affiliated with the Cubs, same reason there is, well, I used to go to Daytona Cubs games with my dad, so I like the Cubs now. So I think, from a competition perspective, the minor leagues is good, but also from a marketing perspective and growing the game.
And why, and you're 100% right. First of all, the growing the game is the big thing. I think fans can connect the most at the minor league level. It's fun to go to the major league games and watch the top talent. And half the time you are watching the top talent at a minor league game, you might just not know it because you might just be there as a casual fan. But growing the game is a big deal. why have other sports? You know, the NBA has the G League, right? No one talks about taking the G League trip down to Florida and watching, you know, the Lakeland Magic play. Like everyone talks about spring training. You know, hell, Drew, you worked in spring training, right? I remember going down to Vero Beach with my dad and my brother Kyle to go watch, you know, the Dodgers play there for spring training before they went to Arizona for spring training. So, you know, all these memories are made around spring training and going on these trips and having fun with family. Why has the farm system element not translated to any other sport? Drew, do you maybe have a thought around that whole idea?
It's more history, I think, because look back, the Carolina League, they've been like a league since the 1900s. So having a history of the tradition of minor league baseball, because it's simple, $5 ticket. It's like $2 hot dogs. You pay for a cheap time. It's entertaining because it's simple baseball with a cheap value. It's affordable, family fun, and it's a really big factor in why people go to those games. It's cheap and they like to watch the game. So I don't know when the G League started, maybe like the 2000s, I'm guessing. So if the G League was a thing back then, that'd be a different story, I think.
Yeah. I assume it much like baseball, right? They say like what America's pastime and you know the tradition of the game and stuff. So yeah, that makes 100% of sense. So I agree with that. And then so my second question is this. So we just talked about Bryce Harper being with the Phillies, talked about Mike Trout being on the Angels. Is baseball the most likely sport to where the superstars aren't always on the best teams or the teams that are making the runs? I mean, you look at these other sports with the superstars, that's typically the best team. But in baseball, yeah, maybe, you know, there's more superstars because there's more positions to fill. So this guy might be a superstar at that position. But as long as I've been a baseball fan, you know, since Mike Trout entered the league and you know, Bryce Harper even, like those guys have been the cornerstone of MLB marketing, not even necessarily the team, but the face of the organization of the league. And, you know, neither of them, if I'm not mistaken, have a World Series championship, right? Am I wrong there?
No, you're right. And I think it all comes down to just the different ways the games are played. I mean, NBA is very much, LeBron can go out and score 50 points, and that's half the team's points for the night. Football, you can put a star wide receiver on a team, but if he has nobody throwing him the ball, it's very different. If Rodgers comes to the Jaguars are going to be a good team, much better than they were in previous years, but you still have, if the defense isn't as good, if the run game isn't as good. And I think just from baseball, at most, Mike Trout can really only score one run every time he's up at bat, unless the other people do their jobs, and he can only catch anything that's hit to his position. So I think it's very individualistic in baseball, which, is sad to say, just because Trout is a generational talent. And I think MLB has kind of dropped the ball in promoting him as kind of the face. I don't think he has as strong of a personality as Harper, or, kind of like the Trevor Bauer, where he's always getting in fights with people on and off the field. But, it is sad to say Mike Trout is probably a household name to those who like baseball, but it doesn't have the same clout as someone like Brady or someone like, LeBron, who do have championship rings, just because, he doesn't have that supporting cast around him.
And you know what I'm going to say, and we'll shamelessly plug episode 79 next week. We just recorded it, and I used this term about Shaquille Griffin, who just signed with the Jags. So a bit of a preview. He gets the Pac-12 treatment, I think Mike Trout does, where he's on the West Coast. He plays at 10 o'clock. He plays in a big market, but is the second team in that market. So there's really, when it comes down to it, he's had everything working against him. And really the only excitement that's been around the Angels in the last 5 years is when Ohtani went there and the Angels became the name that everyone wanted to talk about again. But other than that, yeah, you're exactly right. The MLB has done a god-awful job at making him, that Kevin Durant of baseball, or, obviously LeBron James is, I think, on a majorly different level, but you look at what the NBA has done for their superstars, and the NHL, I think, still has some catching up to do when it comes to marketing. But the NBA, like a lot of casual observers of sports in general, not even basketball, know who a lot of probably the top 50 players in the MLB are. When it comes to MLB, or in the NBA, excuse me. When it comes to baseball, the casual fan might know top 10, maybe top 15 if they're lucky. Just because, yeah, the marketing just isn't there. I think the league is content with just having the fans they have and maybe not pushing the marketing a little bit more. So
if you look at MLB's like toward Instagram. They're kind of like pushing the youth guys to the face, like, like Acuna, Soto, Tatis, Lindor. So you're seeing like, no, Tatis is like a Gatorade commercial with shoes, Lindor's cleats. So I guess they're trying to promote a youth now with those players kind of globalized. Their brand also just like produce some like fun content for the younger kind of viewers.
Okay. Well, I guess that does kind of make sense if you're trying to grow the game from the bottom up. And, heck, they put nets up now all the way down to the foul poles. I know they've done that here in Jacksonville. They're doing that elsewhere, trying to make the game safer for the fans to get younger people out there. I know from working with the shrimp, that was a concern of some of the families that would come out is, hey, what happens when my kid gets hit by a 120-mile-an-hour foul ball? And I don't know what to say. So, the nets are there. Obviously, they're trying to evolve and they're trying to grow. And I think it's a very difficult game to do that with, just because you have the traditionalists and the purists that want to see it stay the same. And then you have the league that wants to push it to evolve. And part of me thinks that the league knows it needs to evolve. It's just trying to find the right way to do it. So we had tier 5 D-backs, Phillies, Reds, and Red Sox. Max says he wouldn't be surprised if 2 of those teams maybe make a bit of a run out of there. And he likes the Reds coming out of that tier. And then tier 6, the enjoyable teams who are a year away: Giants, Mariners, Marlins, Royals, and Tigers. And Drew, tell me, is it just my bias towards the Marlins that thinks this is way too low for the Marlins, or is this a comfortable spot for them?
This team is based on fun and energy. Like watching Josh Chisholm play, he's this fast, quick guy, can get doubles and steal bases. They're a fun team. Aguilar's a jokester. They're a 75 win team right now. I'm gonna say that. But give them a couple of years, give 6 some chance to develop. Also, the Mariners, they're a legit squad. Kyle Lewis, healthy Mitch Haniger. Here's a guy's name, Logan Gilbert, Stetson alum. Run through the system, he's gonna be an ace a couple of years, so Mariners could be a vital contender next year.
Is Ben Gamel still on that team?
He's on the I think the Indians maybe.
Damn. Okay. I was wondering because String Sports Brewery right up the street in downtown Jacksonville, they actually have a beer named after Ben Gamel because he played here in Jacksonville, which is kind of cool. So for opening day baseball, go to String Sports Brewery. Watch some baseball at Strings, just north of downtown Jacksonville on Main Street. Not only will it revitalize your day, but it is in a revitalized part of Jacksonville in the Springfield Historic District. That place is on the come up. I'm telling you, just like the Miami Marlins, that place is going to be the spot in a few years from now. Go to String Sports Brewery to check out their wings. They got the Alabama white sauce. That's all good. Talk to Scott. He's awesome. And his son who works behind the bar, he'll tell you all about the beers and the names about the beers as well. So, Drew, thanks for talking about the Mariners there, because I feel like that's another team that doesn't really get much love. And, ever since Griffey was there, they haven't really done too much. Do they still have Cano on their team?
No, he's in the Mets now. Well, actually, is he in the Mets or is he retired?
I'm not sure.
I have no clue, but I know when he went to the Mariners, that was like the big signing. And then like the Mariners never really became anything. Let me see. Here's what I wanted to tell you, Drew. So you said the Marlins are a 75 win team?
Yes. Okay,
I tweeted back on February 28th. Go follow me on Twitter, jpooch17. The Marlins are going to be better than good this year. I was drunk, has the makings of a team that could win 85 games. Just saying. Is that a sober thought or is that a drunk thought?
I think that is a truly seltzer thought. I think you're kind of off your bases on that kind of tweet, but get them next year. Get the Marlins next year. Also, they have a new stadium name now. It's terrible. They're called the Lone Depot Stadium now.
Lone Depot Stadium?
Yes, which sounds very vanilla. So what do we call it? The Lone Zone.
Lone Zone. We're alone. We're alone in our seats because no one else is here.
Forever alone, It's a.
I like it. Everyone's in the front row when there's no one in front of you. I like that. So we got the Giants. I think their streak of like every other year ended 4 years ago. So they're not going to win the World Series, I don't think, anytime soon. Royals and Tigers. Okay, so funny thing about the Royals, and here's my basic interpretation of the Royals. They felt like a team where their window was like the eyesight on the door hole. Like their window was like this big, just enough to see through it, and they did. I'm pretty sure they made it to a World Series. Maybe they even lost to the Giants, I think.
They won one.
So they won one. So their window, right? Is that a small market issue that they win a World Series, they're competitive, and now they're in the 6th tier of these rankings, Max?
Yeah, I think it's small market. And I also think it's just, a lot of their good players from that run. I mean, Hosmer's over on the Padres. Moustakas is maybe the Reds now,
Yeah,
I think.
I think he is the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, that core just got broken up just from a small market perspective of they couldn't pay Hosmer. They couldn't pay these guys. And Moustakas, who was there for a decent amount of time, just moved on. So I think you get to a point to where these, they end up being good, these small town players that you do grow through the farm system and they leave. It's, the same thing that happens to the Rays. It's the same things that happen to a lot of these small market systems. But yeah, to that point, they did have that kind of 2 to 3 year window, and they did go and lose that first World Series, but then they won the next one. So kudos to them. And I think they played it up pretty well too, because the one thing I remember out of anything from the Royals is the next season they had the gold numbers. And that was pretty sick.
That's
so
epic. That is epic. I like that. I think they need to adapt that from the NBA's, do more fun jerseys, like city edition jerseys. And you have so much you can do because your whole uniform is like your whole body pretty much. So there's so much that you can tie in. You see it all the time in minor league baseball, the fun and craziness that the teams have with different uniforms. And, we did it here in Jacksonville with the Bomb Pop night for 4th of July and the Vice night as an ode to the Miami Marlins and Miami Vice. Scrabble night. We did so many fun things. And I think more teams, we even partnered with the Icemen and made a baseball hockey jersey, which was a lot of fun and pretty popular here in town. So I think that's pretty cool. Well, Drew, you gave me a name earlier of Peter Fairbanks to look out for.
Pistol Pete Fairbanks.
What's up? Pistol Pete? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Pistol Pete Fairbanks. I'm going to give you the name Bobby Witt Jr. And here's why. Okay. Because in my 15 minutes of research before this, I was looking at highlights and I saw he has like 3 home runs in spring training and like 2 of them were against the Dodgers or something crazy like that. A name Bobby Witt Jr., that's the ultimate like baseball name, I think, in my opinion. Like that guy is a time traveler from the early 1900s. That's right up there with Shoeless Joe Jackson and Honus Wagner. Bobby Witt Jr. is the guy I'm looking for this year to bring the Royals to dominance.
He was actually supposed to start this year at the big league, but actually brought him down for service time reasons. But he's like a number 4 prospect, I think, in the league. But his dad played Major League Baseball back in the day. They also signed Ben Tendy, Benny Biceps. He's part of the team now. So they have some pieces. They have, pitching is good. They have Brady Singer coming up. Brad Keller's a solid ace for them. So they're on the way, but not there yet.
All right. And then we got the Tigers, number 2 farm system in the MLB as ranked by MLB.com. Why, Max, do you know this? I think this guy played in the SEC. Why does Casey Mize ring a bell?
Because Casey Mize shoves. He was dominant at Auburn. Literally, like you could have thrown that guy in the Vandy rotation, which is notoriously good, and he would have been their number 1. Every time I watched that guy play, and it was pretty often, either he was playing Florida or just from having SEC Network. I mean, he was a must watch. And I think it'll translate up to the Tigers. They've got a good history of developing good starting pitching with Verlander, with Scherzer. So, yeah, I hope he does well. He played down in Lakeland here for a little bit in their system. So, I think he'll be good. I don't know if this year's the year, but I think overall, if he comes up to the bigs this year, I don't know if he's going to start on the opening day roster, but yeah, the kid's legit, at least in college. And, I think coming up from college compared to high school, you get kind of more mature. You've played in bigger games. He's had time to develop down in the minors. So that'll be a fun one to watch. But I also think the Tigers are going to be garbage, but at least Mize will be a bright spot.
All right. Well, I like that honesty there at the end, because I was about to say, we talked about it with Mike Trout. One guy can only carry a team so far. Luckily, in pitching, one guy can carry a team to a win. So that's a completely kind of different ball of wax. But isn't it crazy? A 162 game season. It's like what? It's pretty crazy when a pitcher wins 20 games, right? So like you think about it, to win a sixth of the, to win, what is that? 20, what would that be? Like 1/14 of a season, right? 20 games.
Be an eighth.
an eighth. So to
Right?
win, yeah,
Yeah.
Jacob's not here. He does the math for the podcast. To win an eighth of the season's games, I guess that's impressive when you consider you only start every 5 days, right? So I guess the opportunities to win aren't as vast. So we get to the bottom tier. Here we are, just a fun, they're just here. They're just there. The Orioles, the Pirates, the Rockies, and the Rangers. And that just feels right. That just feels right for me, to be honest. I feel bad. It says here, the teams combine 1.6 chance of making the playoffs this season. So put your money where your mouth is. Let's chase it.
Hey, shout out to the Pirates for one of the worst trades in baseball history, given the Rays Austin Meadows, Glasnow, and Shane Baz for Archer, who just decided to come back to the Rays this season. So thanks, Pirates. Appreciate it.
That's right up there with the Laramie Tunsil trade that the Dolphins pulled off a few years ago, and now they have like all these first round picks. So yeah, the Pirates are bad. They haven't been good for a while. Orioles, the biggest thing about the Orioles, Trey Mancini, that's a great story. Drew, do you have more information on that story?
I believe Trey had cancer last year. He was out of baseball, trying to recuperate and fight for get the disease ridden with, and eventually got back into baseball. I think he started doing some activities in the fall, came back, had his first at bat in spring training, got a standing ovation from the crowd. So I feel like a good story. Trey's a solid guy. He's like a middle lineup guy, cleanup hitter, 30 home runs a year. So he's a feel good story and a really good player too. So it's good to see him prosper.
Yeah, no, that's if there's any reason to follow the Orioles, it's going to be that reason, just to kind of see how he plays out. And I know they have a good young catcher, Adley Rutschman, who I actually remember. He played at Oregon State, and I thought it was crazy how a catcher was the first overall pick in the MLB draft. I thought that was pretty cool because that feels to me like a tight end being the first overall pick in football, just because they're just the big guys that maybe they tried to play third, maybe they tried to play first. And then, hey, you know what? I'm good at just catching the ball and just staying here, squat it down, and this is going to be my position. So I liked that. Adley Rutschman, the catcher, first overall pick for the Orioles. So the Rockies, they trade Nolan Arenado. The only thing they have going for them is Coors Light, barely, and they play in no altitude. No one drinks Coors Light. We're all about Busch Light. And the Rangers are dead last on here, which is a surprise to me. I thought the Rangers were good. Thought they still had Alex Rodriguez. I guess that's not the case, but no, I'm kidding. Out of these 4 teams, guys, these 4, Orioles, Pirates, Rockies, and Rangers, if you had $10 to put on one of these teams to be back first, to win their division first, who would it be? You got the Orioles, Pirates, Rockies, and Rangers. What team's
going to
balance?
Gross. Just throw it away. It's all gross. I mean, literally all those teams the Orioles, with their decent farm system, but then you get them all up and they're playing against the Yankees, Red Sox, Rays, and probably a decent Blue Jays. Rangers, they had their time. They blew it every time. So no love for them. I think out of all of those, I guess you could maybe make a case for Colorado. I mean, I don't really, there's nothing out of any of those teams that I'm seeing where I'm like, that's a bright spot for the future. I just don't see it. But then again, the Rays were also basement dwellers forever and kind of popped up and now are perennial 90-game winners. So who knows?
I have mile high hopes for the Rockies. So you have Trevor Story, who's legit shortstop, probably best shortstop in the league, arguably. You have Kyle Freeland, a decent ace. CJ Cron, who was a former Ray, is a big power bat, and Coors Field probably mash some homers to the big seats and up top 400 level. They're a good team. They're all right. They're nothing amazing. They're fun to watch. They're 10 o'clock games, but they're Jason Segel. They're a mid-tier actor that you enjoy watching.
I like that. That's a fair enough comparison. That's now I understand what you were getting at. I guess that makes sense. Okay, so now I understand. Well, I'm just gonna have fun with it, and my roommate's an Orioles fan. Luke's an Orioles fan. I'm just gonna go with the Orioles. Actually, no, I just changed my mind right now. And I'm not even gonna edit that part out because they play the Yankees and the Red Sox, and the Rockies play the Dodgers and the Padres. And just because I don't know anything else about the Pirates division, really, I'll go with the Pirates. I love Pittsburgh. I've had so much fun in Pittsburgh. I've been twice. It's one of my favorite cities. So why not support the team in the city that I am fond of? I'm going to go with the Pirates out of this tier. But anything else from you guys before we sign off for the night regarding the 2021 season? Hopefully we got some juices flowing for opening day tomorrow.
Why don't you go first, Max?
Yeah, I mean, nothing too much from my end. Just shout out to my boy Boomer Bogowski. He's going out to play with the Angels this season. So he's coming off of, I don't know if it was Tommy John exactly, but he's going out there. So shout out to him. I hope he does well. And yeah, looking forward to a great season. And yeah, hopefully Justin, you'll be entertained by my tweets and it won't just be constant sadness by the All-Star break.
Hey, if it is constant sadness, it's okay. You'll have some Jaguar off-season training camps to look forward to. Right above your sad Rays tweet, you'll see a Trevor Lawrence throw. So you'll be okay. It'll be like the mix of emotions you need. Drew,
That's true.
Yeah, Drew, anything left from you? For
the 3-1 old heads, let the kids play, first of all. And second of all, I'm going to Miami this Friday to watch the Rays and Marlins, see Randy Rosarena hit a moonshot to South Beach. So Rays, Marlins, Friday, I'll be there. Might be a reporter for Poojie Podcast. I don't know.
Grab a mini microphone. I'll give you access to the Instagram, and I'll just have you live from Marlins Lone Depot Park or whatever it is. And you'll just report live from Lone Depot. And hey, you'll be in the front row. So no one else is going to be there. It'll be fun to watch you. And I'll be sure to tune in. Two of the Florida teams playing against each other. It'll be fun to watch. But anyways, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks to all the sponsors that support the podcast. Cimarron Golf Club, they do a great job. Shores Pub Mandarin, go check them out for great, fantastic, affordable drinks and strings. Sports Brewery as well, always doing a great job cooking up the wings and the burgers up there on Main Street, just north of downtown Jacksonville. Thank you to all of them. Thank you to the panel. Thank you to Drew. Thank you to Max. Scott couldn't make it this time. And thank you to you, listeners and fans of the podcast. Be sure to tune in later this week. Going to talk a little bit of U.S. men's soccer and the collapse of what should be maybe the most sure dynasty in all of sports. And next week, we have a lot of fun coming up with the Masters preview and Jaguars free agency recap. So a lot of episodes coming up. Go follow us on Instagram. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel and go make this world a better place. Take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?